Hey folks, we are back once again with Erika Brown, publisher and editor of The Cricket, coming to us from her office in downtown Manchester by the Sea. Hello, Erika.
Hi, Kory. How are you, honey?
I'm
We've
good.
been
All right, you
on
already
all week.
warned me. There's a ton to get into today. We have a big story regarding the planning board.
Yeah, I mean it's a big story, and yet it's not a big story, but it certainly has gotten a lot of attention, and it's got a lot of attention because it was very fiery. We're talking about the planning board meeting that took place, I think, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. I can't remember right now but there was I mean, Jeff Pope had actually gone to the meeting to cover it because of cell signaling. Cell signaling going into the LCD, everyone really cares about what's going on with that. And they were making a presentation to the planning board, and yet the magic and the sparks didn't lie with cell signaling. It lay instead with Christine Delisio, who is a member of the planning board. Christine and Mary Foley, I will tell you, are sort of the minority voters in most of these things. So they usually go against things, and then they're usually voted against because there's a voting bloc that usually votes against them. So that's the history. Well, Christine Delisio is a 6-minute heated exchange, and 6 minutes at a meeting, that's a long time,
That's two
right?
boxing rounds, Erika.
In any case, here's what happened. She brought up at the end of the meeting the fact that the MBTA task force, which is a task force created by the select board that is about the MBTA overlay district, the multi-family higher density district that the state is mandating that any town in the Commonwealth that has a train station has the benefit of the common benefit of a train station, commuter rail station, has to have they have to respond either yes or no with a vote at town meeting by the end of next year on whether or not they will do an overlay district that is multifamily units by right, by a certain density. It's very controversial because of what it is. And there's been a lot of kind of grumblings in Manchester that that task force isn't being run by the planning board, right? So that's the background, right? And yet this task force that was created by the select board has representation from the planning board, from the historic district commission, from the ZBA, from the finance committee, from all of these other boards. So there's a wide variety. And then there are at-large members so that's who we're talking about. So Christine has historically, along with Mary Foley, said that this is about zoning and therefore it should be in the purview of the planning board. So there's already that kind of angst behind. Well, I guess what happened was at the MBTA task force meeting, Sarah Mellish, who is she happens to be the chairman of the ZBA and the finance committee. I think she's representing the ZBA on this task force. She was giving a pretty routine kind of, update on where the assessment for where are we. The first thing that the task force is doing is saying, where are we right now in terms of compliance with this new mandate, right? So they're just figuring it out right now. They're scoping things out. And she happened to say that her little task force, which was, figuring this out, was staying away from single family residence neighborhoods, right? I can tell by your face you're wondering where this is going.
Oh,
Okay, so this is what happened, because I'll let you know. So she happened to mention we stayed away from single family neighborhoods. And as an aside, a joke, Gar Morse, who is also on the task force, looks at her, and you could see it right on camera, and he goes, like Smith's Point, which is like the wealthy neighborhood, right, in
Tony of the
Manchester.
Tony, yeah.
And she started laughing. She goes, and everybody else started laughing. And so encouraged, Gar Morse, because he's joking around, says, and Spy Rock Hill. And everyone goes, and they start laughing even more. So guess what? Even though it wasn't official business, Christine Delisio was absolutely correct. It was very much NIMBY language. I mean, which is not in my backyard. And that is not the spirit of this mandate. And it showed that everybody on the task force was pretty comfortable with the idea that they were going to stay away from Smith's Point, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't have laughed. But they did laugh. It was picked up. And even though it wasn't official business, so much so that Chris Olney, who is the chairman of the task force, He actually reached out to me because Jeff had covered this and said, where in the transcript was this? He literally, as the chairman, he was doing the business of that meeting. He didn't see the side conversation. It was happening right next to him. And I had to point it out to him. He had no idea this wasn't an official thing. And by the way, for what it's worth, the task force is looking at a piece of property that is on Smith's Point, technically. It's on Masconomo Street down by Old Neck Road. So take that, Christine D'Alicio. But that doesn't wipe away the fact that that language was absolutely NIMBY language. It wasn't officially done by that board, but it was kind of unofficially done by Gar Morse and laughed at by right along with Sarah Melish. They thought it was very funny. So anyway, that was a big drama. A lot of stuff on Facebook about it. I haven't really been following it, but that's what's been going on.
Like sands through the hourglass, Erika. All right. Let's turn our attention to a really cool piece from Chris McGinn, as usual.
Yeah, I know. She's the best, isn't she? She did a really great piece on sort of the story of the former president of the Manchester Historical Museum, Matt Genta. He has been sort of sniffing around. He started on his own. He's just sort of one of those guys that likes to find things. And he decided to go looking for the paintings of Charles Hopkins, who is a contemporary, great portraiture painter of the 1800s. And he was a contemporary of like John Singer Sargent and Winslow Homer, like that. I mean, Sargent was a little later, I think, but that time period. And he's kind of forgotten, but he is he has a permanent, he's in the permanent collection of the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. The Cape Ann Museum has some pieces of him, I think 2 pieces. Well, Matt Genta has been able to acquire 4 Hopkinson paintings for the museum. And he was able to get back with the Hopkins family, which owns the Shark's Mouth Estate, the Shark's Mouth Estate in Manchester. And one of the descendants of Hopkins is a painter himself, Charles Shercliffe. He's actually just did the opening of the Cape Ann Plein Air. He gave a demonstration at Shark's Mouth. Right, that's yeah. Charles Shercliffe, who's a very good painter in his own right. Well, his relative was Charles Hopkinson, and the paintings are beautiful. And one of the things that's kind of interesting she focused in on was this one portrait he was able to acquire. It was rather large. It was relatively new to the family, and it was of a little girl with a cape around her, a green cape. They were not familiar with the piece. We ended up identifying it, or Matt did. It was one of the Curtis sisters, which will mean something from Manchester. That family, very famous family. And we went to the Hop House, which is the Hopkinson house, where his studio was. And they found a painting of a little boy and a little girl on a sofa with that same green cape. They were sitting on it. And it was really interesting. And that one painting that Matt was able to get of the girl with the cape around her, that made its way up to Canada, across Canada, and back to the collection of William Trays. Do you know Bill Trays from Gloucester? Who is a very well-known local art collector. He passed a couple of years ago, but it was in the auction of his collection that Matt was able to get it. So wow. There you go. So full circle. It was like a full circle story, and the story was called "The Girl in the Green with the Green Cape." It was really lovely.
Yeah, it was a very nice piece. Erika, do you want to talk about what's coming up down the pike here?
I mean, there's just so much stuff. This like we just had Magtoberfest, which I love Magtoberfest. Yep. Love, and let's talk about this next week, the Cardboard Box Regatta. Yeah. Manchester's best event. And so we had Magtoberfest, and then we have the Carnival is coming up. The Manchester Carnival is coming up. We have the Wobblin' Goblin. Cape Ann Plein Air has been going on. That's like winding up. That's an amazing event. That's turned out to be quite amazing. And I think the gala is on Saturday. I love the gala because where else are you going to see hundreds of paintings by these incredible juried artists in one night, all that are all the place you live in. They're all like our own backyard, and there's hundreds of them. It's like wild, and that's going to be at the McLeod. Is it called McLeod? The McLeod YMCA?
Yeah.
Is that what?
Yeah, Glim Cloud.
So that's where it's going to be on Saturday night. If anybody's interested, that's a very good event, and you can get some good stuff. But anyway, that's all I'm thinking about. Like, am I missing anything? Like this, there's like crazy.
There's 100 things going on. It's that plus the Gloucester 400 stuff. Like, there's a million things. The Clam Fest is coming back in Essex.
That's right, Clam Fest.
So yeah,
that's this weekend. This coming weekend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot
so it's good. It's a good time of year.
Good. We'll have more to talk about next week then. Same time, Erika. Thank you as usual.
Bye.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.